Should Ohio State target Matt Patricia to be its next defensive coordinator?
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to our Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And during today's show, we'll discuss if I am pleased with Ryan Day's coaching moves this offseason, as well as Keenan Bailey's promotion. But first, should Ohio State target Matt Patricia to be its next defensive coordinator? And when I started reading about Matt Patricia potentially being the next DC at Ohio State, I got a little excited. I also got a little worried. I got a little concerned. Then I got a little bit more excited because Matt Patricia is a guy that's done at the highest level. He's led very successful defenses in the NFL. He is a 3-time Super Bowl winning coach with the New England Patriots. All of those things are great. I start to get concerned when I think about Matt Patricia being a guy that has not coached in college since 2003. I start thinking about Matt Patricia, who is a guy that didn't coach in 2024. I start thinking about a guy in Matt Patricia that might have a personality that might be a little bit difficult to work with. Those things pop into my head. But if we're just talking about coaching ball and his experience doing that, I think Matt Patricia is a great candidate to be the next defensive coordinator at Ohio State. But you can't forget about the other stuff, because that stuff makes Matt Patricia the coach that he is. And I think for Ryan Day, he's done a great job with hires. We talked about it a lot. And I believe moving forward, we can all think about Ryan Day being able to get the next DC hire correct. We should all have full faith in Ryan Day to not mess this up. But Matt Patricia is one of those guys. I think about comparing him to Joe Colin. I think I would take Matt Patricia over Joe Colin. And both are great candidates. Don't get me wrong. I don't care about how long it's been since you coached in college, at least when comparing the two candidates in the beginning of the conversation. I think Matt Patricia's track record of coaching defenses and being a guy that coached various spots on the team, not just on defense, but also on offense as well. I think his experience being able to help multiple positions would be a great asset for Ohio State. Ohio State has a great D-line coach in Larry Johnson. You got James Laurinaitis, who's an up-and-comer. You got Matt Guerrieri and Tim Walton, who are locking down the Buckeye secondary, making that thing a no-fly zone. They're doing great. He's coming into an operation that's pretty much a well-oiled machine. You just won the national championship, so you're not coming into an organization, if he did, that is trying to figure things out, that has not been successful, that has a coach that can't figure things out. No, you're coming into a program, has a good head coach, one of the best head coaches in the country, a national championship winning team, some of the best players in the country on that side of the ball. You're coming into a situation that a lot of coaches would dream of entering. Matt Patricia would be a guy that if he wants to get back to the NFL and if this is his route to get back there, it would be wise for him to come to Ohio State, to come to Columbus, Ohio. I'm not sitting here going to say that this is going to be the same thing that Nick Saban had in Tuscaloosa, where a coordinator would come in for a year, then go back and use that as a springboard to get another job, or he would come into now Columbus, Ohio, and be here for 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden, wait, you've made a name for yourself. You've done a whole lot of great things, and people around the country and in the NFL, they're seeing that, and you go off and get a different job. Great, that's cool. I'm not saying this is going to be that yet. We've seen it happen right before our very eyes. And I think it's possible that if Matt Patricia wants to get back to the NFL, this would be a great move for him. Now, you may want to say, Jay, if Matt Patricia wants to get back to the NFL, why won't he go to North Carolina with Bill Belichick? He's coached Bill Belichick for a long, long time, and maybe that would be the path for him to get back to where he wants to be. I don't know. I have no idea. There are rumors out there that Matt Patricia is a guy that could be the next DC at Ohio State. I believe there's a reason why Ryan Day wanted to wait till this week, beginning of this week, to make a defensive coordinator hire. In the thought in my head when I hear that is the next DC is coming from the National Football League. Well, while Matt Patricia has not been working, I think the Joel Colin thing has a little bit more traction when you hear that Ryan Day wants to wait till Monday or Tuesday to hire somebody or sometime this week. I don't know if it's going to be Joe Colin. I truly don't. And this is not saying that the Chiefs' performance on the defensive line is going to be a thing to move Ryan Day away from pursuing Cole. And I'm not saying that. I think Cole is still going to get interviewed, and I think that there's still a possibility that could be the move. But I would just still go with Matt Patricia. He did a lot of great things in the NFL. I think he will do more great things in the NFL whenever he gets back there. Being able to have top 10 defenses in the National Football League for multiple years, that's insane. Being able to lead the Patriots defense and coach, not just be a D coordinator, but you were an O-line coach, you were a safeties coach, a linebackers coach, an assistant offensive line coach in 2004 and 2005. He's done a lot. He's grinded. He has been a guy that has been not only a Bill Belichick disciple, but has been willing to do a lot of things a lot of coaches wouldn't want to do. He was a grad assistant, then went to being a D-line coach, then went to being a grad assistant again for 3 years. Think about the start to his coaching career. It's not something that was glamorous. It wasn't something that anybody would truly say, this is my dream path. It was something that you're looking at him and saying, oh, you only do some of the dirty work for multiple years and not get any recognition, not get the money you think you would deserve, and just keep moving along and trying to move up the totem pole. Yeah, he did that. And I think that speaks volumes about him. While it was a long time ago, it wasn't yesterday where he was making those moves. I think that speaks volumes about him. And I just have a feeling if a guy did that once in his career, it's possible that he's going to be comfortable coming down to a level that he hasn't been at in a very long time to get back to a level that he may have a desire to get back to. I think that would be very, very wise and a wise move for him if that's his thought process. I think there's value for Ryan Day going to the NFL. We talked about it yesterday. The Everydayers got a little glimpse of this about Ryan Day going to the NFL to get the next DC and how that coach could be someone that could lead the guys to be to raise their draft stock, to be higher draft picks than maybe they thought they were going to be before Matt Patricia got there. I think Matt Patricia, having his NFL experience, would be huge for the Buckeyes. Also, I was doing a little bit of digging, and shout out to 11 Warriors for putting stuff up on the YouTube and on their website. One thing Matt Patricia did in 2018 during Ohio State's Pro Day was he led drills for the defensive backs. Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia were two of the 5 head coaches that were at Ohio State's Pro Day in 2018. And there's a clip out there, about a 6-minute video, where you can see Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick working together to do some DB drills, hitting a sled and then rolling out, flipping the hips and trying to high point the ball to catch interception. And I think that's also speaks volumes because not only is he a Bill Belichick disciple, Ryan Day was there. And while Ryan Day didn't work with him or coach with him, I think there's a value of that. And Ryan Day early in his Buckeye career, getting NFL coaches there. All 32 NFL teams are represented at the 2018 Buckeye Pro Day. Only 5 teams had their head coaches there representing the team. I think Ryan Day is going to realize, if this is the guy, I've seen him in action before with Ohio State players. Not just in action before with guys in the NFL. I have seen him in action before with Ohio State players. Something else to keep in mind. If I'm an offensive head coach that had time in the NFL, what kind of D coordinator would I want to hire if that guy is currently in the National Football League? A guy that I struggled to go against when I was in the NFL. Go back, look up what the teams did when the Eagles or the 49ers went up against Matt Patricia defenses or position groups that Matt Patricia was coaching, and look up and see if that would be something that Ryan Day would keep in mind when it comes to Matt Patricia, because something tells me, while they have never coached together, something about Matt Patricia in the NFL, while Ryan Day was in the NFL, stuck around with Ryan Day, and it's why Matt Patricia is a guy that's a candidate to be the next defensive coordinator. I think they should pursue him. When I say target him to be the guy you pursue the hardest, I don't know. I can't get on board with that. What I'm trying to get on board with is a promotion Ryan Day recently made to Keenan Bailey. I like Keenan Bailey, but I don't know if this is the right move for Ohio State's coaching staff. This episode is brought to you by Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I'm currently looking for furniture, and their huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and budget. My favorite part, the free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. Wayfair's site was so easy to navigate. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. As I think about some of the promotions Ryan Day has handed out this offseason, I think about how some of them make a lot of sense. Billy Fessler being promoted to quarterbacks coach. That makes a lot of sense. He was very implemental in Will Howard's development this past year. Brian Hartline being promoted to offensive coordinator and still being wide receivers coach. That makes a lot of sense. He's been around the program for a very long time. He has a proven track record of doing all the things Ryan Day wants him to. It makes a lot of sense. Promoting Keenan Bailey to co-offensive coordinator along with Brian Hartline, that's one that makes me scratch my head. Not because I don't think Keenan Bailey is going to be able to be a great pair with Brian Hartline. That's not it. It's the fact that it would have made a whole lot more sense to make Tyler Bowen, the new offensive line coach, the co-OC along with Brian Hartline. You would basically be pairing your run game coordinator with Tyler Bowen with your passing game coordinator, Brian Hartline. That would have made a whole lot more sense to me. That pair would have made sense. They can work hand in hand even more closely than they already would be doing with making game plans and working day to day to make Ohio State's offense the best it could be. While Keenan Bailey's been at Ohio State for a very long time, I don't know if this is the time to make Keenan Bailey co-offensive coordinator. Don't take this as a knock against Keenan Bailey. Coach Key is a guy that's been around Ohio State, I believe, since 2016. He was at Notre Dame for a couple of years prior to coming to Ohio State. He is a Notre Dame grad, and he is someone that's known for recruiting. Has been very implemental in helping a lot of different areas of the Buckeyes offense. In 2022, he worked closely with Justin Fry to develop the Ohio State offensive line. And you think about Ohio State's tight ends, you can look more on his bio on Ohio State's website and just read up on a lot of the things he has done very, very well during his time at Ohio State. He was on 247 Sports. Let me pull this up correctly. 247 Sports 30 under 30 list, which is another badge of honor that he has. I mean, this guy has done a lot of great things. And Coach Key has been praised by a lot of Ohio State players for his work and helping them develop as players and also as men. This doesn't seem to be the right time to make him the co-OC. It doesn't. I would have been more comfortable. I think it would have been more of the right move to make Tyler Bowen the guy. Then at the same time, I think about Ryan Day's loyalty and how Ryan Day has been loyal to the soil, you may want to say, to not only where his home is in the northeastern portion of the country, but also to Ohio State. Ryan Day loves the guys that are there. Ryan Day is very loyal to his family, to his players, but also the coaches that have been there with him that have been grinding every single day while he's been there in Columbus, Ohio, which once again makes sense why Billy Fessler's promotion makes sense and Brian Hartline's promotion makes sense. And it makes sense why you promote Coach Key. That makes a lot of sense. I just don't know if this is the best move. However, there's also a thought in my mind that maybe there are players that had Coach Key's vote of confidence saying, he's the guy, Coach. If you want to have a co-offensive coordinators, he is the guy. But we can't forget what happens when there are co-offensive coordinators or co-defensive coordinators at any school in college football. We're not going to go to the NFL in this conversation. Let's stick in college because that's where Ohio State is, and we don't want to even think about an NFL team hiring two guys to be co-defensive coordinators or co-OCs. Probably wouldn't go over very well. In my time being an Ohio State fan, not even my time, probably your time too, you probably have a thought about Ohio State having co-offensive coordinators or co-defensive coordinators, and it doesn't work out very well. Think about 2015. In my mind, anytime I think about two guys running one side of the ball. I think about 2015, how even before the season, they couldn't figure out who the best quarterback was. Or maybe they knew who the best quarterback was, and they didn't know who the right quarterback was to lead Ohio State's offense. Braxton Miller went from quarterback to receiver. Great move for him. I get it. It was probably his best spot to play the National Football League. JT Barrett got hurt in 2014. Cardell Jones went on a miraculous 3-game run, Big Ten championship, and then won 2 playoff games en route to winning the Natty. Okay, cool. All 3 of those guys did great things as Ohio State quarterbacks, even in the moment and even now. Back then, if you want to look back, I was more on the JT Barrett train. Now, we all know JT Barrett should have been the full-time starter all season. Why was that the case? Well, I don't have concrete data saying, well, this guy made this decision, this guy made that decision. I don't know. I do know this. When there were 2 guys there, I think co-OCs in 2015 were a big reason why the quarterback situation was so off. It was a big reason why the offense never looked in sync. And it was a big reason why, I know for a fact, it was a big reason why Ohio State lost to Michigan State in 2015. And that kicker, I'm not going to call him the name that I used to call him because I'm trying to be more respectful and have a better thought about kickers. But that kicker 2015 had one of those celebrations that still to this day annoys me. I have the picture in my head of that kicker when he made that kick to win the game. And I remember that win. I remember what he did. And I was sitting here thinking, why do y'all do what y'all do? Y'all are too smart to make these decisions. Y'all are too smart to make these blunders. Y'all can get this right. And I think about Coach Key and Brian Hartline being co-offensive coordinators. One guy's been an offensive coordinator for 1 year, then a co-OC the next, and now he's back to an offensive coordinator. He has more success. He has more experience. He's been in rooms and had conversations that Coach Key has never had. Tyler Bowen, he has been in rooms. He has had conversations that Coach Key never has. Not because he was at a different school, but because of the decisions he was making at his previous stop. When you tack on the fact that Tyler Bowen's also the run game coordinator, I'm bringing that back to the conversation on purpose. That pairing would have made a whole lot more sense. I understand Ryan Day's loyalty. I don't knock it. I actually love Ryan Day's loyalty, his ability to be loyal to the soil. I just don't know why having co-OCs is the right thing. Is it a money thing? Is it a way to give your guys more money? It might be. But when your guys get more money, you know that is an extra guy being in a conversation that can make a decision to make or break a game-winning play, that could make or break a game-winning drive, that could make or break a lot of things this year. While I have a lot of faith in Ryan Day, I like a lot of things Ryan Day does, I have never been on board with having co-offensive coordinators or co-defensive coordinators. If Matt Guerrieri and Tim Walton are co-DCs, could it work? It could. Absolutely, it could. But I'd be having the same conversation. Well, a little bit different, but a similar conversation if Ryan Day promotes those 2 guys to be co-defensive coordinators. 2 guys having that big of a voice, having big voices like that, to make big decisions in crunch time or just any portion of the game, just doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't. And I don't know if I'll ever be on board with having co-coordinators, because most of the time, it doesn't work out. Who was the defensive coordinator in 2021? Well, Kerry Coombs was the guy when the season started. Matt Barnes, we believe, took over after the Oregon game. But does anybody know that definitively? People do. But as you would think that'd be public knowledge, we don't think it was. Yeah, I think Matt Barnes was the defensive coordinator at times, but it could have been a co-DC situation, because Kerry Coombs has been at Ohio State, had a great track record, and I don't think he was going to sit there and say, let this young guy do it. I'm going to just take my voice out of this. I don't know if that's going to happen. Co-coordinators, it's great. It sounds good on paper. It's a good way to get your boys some extra money, but I can't get on board with it. However, I can get on board with a lot of the things Ryan Day has done via making some good hires this offseason. We'll dive into some of those next. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. One thing I like about Ryan Day is his ability to get hires correct. When I think about Ryan Day's assistant coaches heading into 2025, we're not just going to go with the guys currently that were hired this offseason. I'm talking about just the entire coaching staff in general. Quarterback coach, wide receivers, O-line, tight end, D-line, linebackers, and the guys in the secondary. So I believe all of those have a different conversation, have a different talking points. But I think you look at all of them and say, got this right? He didn't get this right. Let's start with the coordinators for instance. I think this can work. I don't think it's the right move. However, I think it can work. Taking Coach Key's co-OC tag out of it, let's look at tight ends. I think Coach Key is going to be a phenomenal tight ends coach. And I think he's going to keep climbing the ladder. And if he wants to stay loyal to Ohio State, he can be a guy that can be a position coach at Ohio State or a coordinator at Ohio State for a very long time. Like I said, Ryan Day's loyal to the soil, not just his home, also in Columbus, Ohio. And I think that would work. I have nothing wrong with to say about Coach Key's ability to recruit or to develop guys on at the tight end room. Think about G. Scott Jr.'s development. Homie came in as a wide receiver, realized he wasn't going to get on the field as quickly as he would like, and the best way for him to get on the field was to move positions to tight end. Had to figure out how to block, had to figure out how to get into a stance, had to figure out how to get out of a stance, had to gain weight. And there's a whole lot that goes into moving from wide receiver to tight end. Also realizing as you gain weight, as your body changes, or is your catch rate is going to be the same? Are you going to be able to move like you used to? Or is your speed going to be the same? Probably not, but can you be quick enough and speedy enough to do the things you need to do on the football field? All of those things are big factors into moving from one position to another, especially when it's wide receiver to tight end. Coach Q is very implemental in that. Cade Stover's development. Coach Q is implemental in that. Bennett Christian going from being suspended for an entire year to getting what you got from him this year, Coach Q is very implemental, was very big in that. Johnny Thurman, I think Coach Key is going to work on him. And I think if Johnny Thurman just sticks around, I don't know if the next year is going to be the guy for him. I don't believe right now he's top 2 in the room, especially with Max Clare coming in. He probably will still be the number 4 tight end. But if he sticks around, if he starts to figure things out, I think he can be a good guy. Being led by Coach Key. Brian Hartline, not even going to do the offensive coordinator conversation again. We may revisit that later on. But I do think when it comes to wide receivers, enough said. Jeremiah Smith. Let's look at this year's guys. I only look at previously. Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, Bryson Rogers, Carnell Tate, Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter. I mean, Chris Henry Jr. committed to him was a sophomore. Who are we talking about here? Who are they trying to be coached by? Brian Hartline. Look at all the guys that have been at Ohio State playing receiver since 2018, 2017, when Hartline came on staff. What are you finding? That Hartline gets it done every single year. I'm pleased with that. Ryan Day keeping him on staff when Ryan Day got promoted, and then helping Brian Hartline along the way, and even giving him promotions over the past few years. You're getting it right. You're doing what is needed to keep him on the staff, and also to keep Jeremiah Smith. Because trust me, I heard a number from a school in the South that a school in the South is willing to pay Jeremiah Smith to come down there. Not saying the school, not even going to say the state. All I'm going to say is, if Brian Hartline leaves, Jeremiah Smith might leave too, along with 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 receivers at Ohio State, because Brian Hartline's that important. He is that good, and he knows how to push the right buttons to get the best out of the players in his room. Carlos Locklin, my goodness. I don't know if you would have gotten Trevion Henderson running the way he did last year if Carlos Locklin was not the RB coach. Quinshon Judkins, I don't know if Quinshon Judkins would have had the right attitude and would have been able to pair perfectly with Trevion Henderson if Carlos Locklin was not the guy. I don't know if you're going to get the running back production that you're going to get in the upcoming year from James Peoples and CJ Donaldson, and I'm just going to throw Bo Jackson's name in there. if Carlos Lachlan was not the guy. I'm here for it. I am pleased. From top to bottom, I am pleased with all the position coaches. I have nothing bad to say about it. Even Tyler Bowen, run game coordinator, I like it. I love it. And I think Ryan Day bringing him in says a lot about Ryan Day, but also Tyler Bowen. Being able to go from being a coordinator to a position coach is something that a lot of guys don't want to do. They don't want to lose that title. They don't want to lose that spot in the room. They don't want to have a smaller voice. But sometimes you got to do things that most people don't want to do to get to where you want to be. I think Tyler Bowen gets that. On defense, Larry Johnson, he is a legend. Ohio State being able to retain him. First to get him when Urban Meyer was here, but then to retain him once Ryan Day got promoted to being head coach. And then for Larry Johnson to just keep on going, keep on chugging along. Regardless of the rumors, regardless of what people were saying, he kept getting the thing done. No one can complain about him. Linebackers, James Laurinaitis going to do him last because I think James Laurinaitis might be a D coordinator at Ohio State in 2 or maybe 3 years. I'm just throwing it out there. I think there's a path for him to be there. Matt Guerrieri and Tim Walton might be the best pair of all of the pairs at Ohio State. Tim Walton leading the secondary, Matt Guerrieri leading the safeties. And what do you find? That unit had a no-fly zone. It was very hard to get the ball in that area when those guys were on the field because of the leadership and the ability to coach those guys up every single week. Matt Guerrieri, a Jim Knowles disciple, I will be very, very pleased if Friday went the Matt Guerrieri route and just made him the defensive coordinator. I would not be mad about that. It makes a whole lot of sense. And when you got a guy in-house that checks all the boxes, that's young, who you've also called a rising star, just go ahead, do all your interview process, do all the stuff you got to do, and then realize y'all ain't it. The guy I want is right here in-house. His name is Matt Guerrieri. Y'all can call him G, whatever you want to call him, because he is a guy to get that thing done. Tim Walton. I wouldn't say skeptical. I was curious to see what Tim Walton was going to do when he came to Ohio State. I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to get it done. I know he coached some guys in the NFL, and he had a vote of confidence from numerous players that he coached along the way, but trust me, your boy didn't know what was going to happen. And what we realized was Tim Walton can get it done. Sure can. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday, he can get it done. And I love seeing the video circle around the social medias and being able to see him do his OG talk and spit the wisdom to the youngsters and just seeing them sitting there say, say it again, all over the place because they have a love, they have an appreciation, and they just love being in the presence of Tim Walton. For James Laurinaitis, he is someone that I think is moving up the totem pole very, very quickly. If there's a guy at Ohio State that has the least experience of being a position coach, but also could be a guy that could be a coordinator sooner than you think, I think James Laurinaitis is a guy. I just don't know if it's going to happen at Ohio State. It's sad for me to say that because I would love to keep him around. Trust me. His ability to recruit is huge. His ability to develop is clearly seen on the football field. But when he got Matt Guerrieri, if Matt Guerrieri sticks around, or Tim Walton sticks around, and they stick around for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years, is James Laurinaitis willing to wait that long to get that promotion? You'd hope so. I truly would. I just don't know. Your boy can dream, though. I would love a day. Where you have Hartline leading the offense, Laurinaitis leading the defense, and Ryan Day being the head coach. I would love a day like that. A guy in Hartline who was a Buckeye legend, had a pretty good NFL career. A guy in Laurinaitis, a college football legend, a college football Hall of Famer, a 3-time consensus All-American, had a pretty good, probably better than pretty good NFL career, who was willing to grind, gave up his job calling games for the Big Ten Network and being a radio host there in Columbus, Ohio, to being a GA at a couple schools. Now, it's huge you'll be able to work with your former teammate in Marcus Freeman, but you're still a GA. That's a financial hit that your family's going to have to take, that your family's going to have to deal with. That is a time hit that your family's going to have to deal with. There's a lot of things that go into being a grad assistant. It's not a glamorous position, but his ability to do that at one school, then to come back to his alma mater and start from the bottom, and for him to be the LB coach, and for Cody Simon to show every Buckeye fan, remind every Buckeye fan what the linebacker position is supposed to look like, that's not a Jim Knowles thing. That's a James Laurinaitis thing. And I think moving forward, when it comes to Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, CJ Hicks, Peyton Pierce, and others, I think we can all expect James Laurinaitis to lead that room to the best of his ability. And I think the best of his ability will have Ohio State's linebackers being some of the best linebackers in the country year after year after year. Thank y'all for tapping on Locked On Buckeyes here on this Tuesday. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thank y'all for tapping on Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast, because my guy, Craig Sheeman, is the guy that puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooked it. Find Locked On Buckeyes and Locked On Big Ten wherever you get your fine podcast. This has been Locked On Buckeyes here on a Tuesday. We'll see you next time.